Hi there, nice to see that you're still with us. In this video we explain the concept of land condition, and after watching this video you will be able to recognize the signs in the landscape that are used to determine land condition. You will also be able to explain how land condition influences the resilience of ecosystems to recover from degradation. Throughout history, man in his search for food, fiber and fuel has exerted pressure on Earth's ecosystems, sometimes with catastrophic consequences, such as severe land degradation and ecosystem collapse. An example of such collapse can be found in the once thriving city of Petra in present-day southern Jordan. There, use of natural resources like forest, grazing land, and water was greater than could be replenished. The book entitled Collapse, How Societies Choose to Fail or Succeed by Jared Diamond gives many more examples of how human use of land and natural resources has altered ecosystems and led to collapse of societies. Fortunately, most of the ecosystems still can produce and provide crucial ecosystem services to society. However, the productivity is often much lower than the natural potential of the land. Land condition refers to the state of the land when it is compared to its potential. Now let's have a look at different landscapes. What do you see on these photos? Beautiful landscapes for sure, but is there something else to see? The condition of land is extremely important for many reasons. The condition determines how much ecosystem services it can provide, but also the resistance of the land to stress or disturbances, such as change in land use and extreme climate events. The importance of the latter is increasing as the frequency of extreme climate events, droughts or extreme rainfall are expected to increase under climate change. But by comparing the condition of the land to its potential, we can determine how much productivity has been lost. All this is vital information for land use and restoration decisions, as you will see later. And this is not complex science. It is often the matter of opening up your eyes to learn how to read the land, its condition, its potential. There is quite a difference between land in excellent condition and land in poor condition, as you can see on these examples. There is an increasing awareness of the interlinkages between the degrading condition of the Earth's ecosystems and other challenges we humans face today. The international scientific and policy communities increasingly recognize the various threats of Earth's ecosystems as are described by the United Nations Convention on Climate Change, Biodiversity, and Desertification. All these conventions are linked to the concept of land condition. Poor land condition is most often a result of unsustainable land use. It leads to lower biodiversity, contributes to emission of greenhouse gases, reduces its resilience, and, in most severe form, causes ecosystem collapse. However, there is more to it. Land in poor states, stage 2 on the slide, has lost much of its resilience compared to stage 1. In stage 2, it has much lower resistance to the disasters nature brings on once in a while. May it be drought, volcanic eruption, forest fires, cold spells, or the larger scale changes caused by humans such as climate change, or new and more intense land use practices, or other types of new stresses on the land. There are many ways to read the condition of the land. We measure the condition compared to the land potential. To do this, many physical factors such as the signs of soil erosion are important, as well as the state of vegetation cover. To better understand this, let's consider all the cycles, the energy, nutrient, and water cycles. First, the energy cycle. We need green vegetation on the surface to harvest the energy of the sun. Without it, the system degrades and eventually collapses because the system loses the ability to recharge the energy reserves in the soil. There are many ways to measure vegetation cover and composition of the vegetation, which is important to do. It's also easy to determine the energy reserves in the soil simply by measuring the organic carbon content and compare it to the potential of each site that can be found under pristine undisturbed land use under good conditions. So let's move on to the nutrient cycle. Do you remember that ecosystem functions are also dependent on ample supply of many nutrients such as nitrogen, phosphorus, sulfur, potassium, and many more? Nitrogen is usually the one in the shortest supply. This is the nutrient that plants and animals need the most of after carbon. And if we don't have any nitrogen, well, we don't have any DNA. In croplands, nutrient deficiencies caused by repeated harvest are usually masked by fertilizer applications, otherwise the soil can become exhausted and in need for restoration. The conditions of the nutrient cycles can be measured by determining the amount of organic matter and nutrients in the soils and comparing this amount to what should be there under pristine conditions. Then let's look at the water cycle. Without water, there is no life, no energy harvesting, and nutrient cycling. There are two main factors that give information about land condition in relation to the water cycle, namely infiltration and soil water storage. Infiltration is the entry of rain and meltwater into the soil. If the water does not enter the soil, it runs off on the surface, often causing erosion, loss of soil and nutrients. Vegetation is the most important factor to prevent surface runoff, but soil compaction by heavy machinery or overgrazing by livestock can reduce or completely hinder infiltration, as happens when the soil is sealed with asphalt or concrete. Poor water infiltration and soil erosion has also so-called offside effects, such as sedimentation of streams, deltas, and reservoirs, and eutrophication and contamination of surface waters. It is good to keep in mind that large floods are most often tied to improper land use and poor condition of the land somewhere along the path of the river. When water has infiltrated, it needs to be stored. It needs to be stored in the soil. There are several factors that promote water retention in soils. Deep soils store more water than shallow soils. However, soil, clay, and organic materials are the main storehouses of water in the soil. Sandy soils, low in organic materials, store very little water, but soils rich in organic matter and clay can store vast amounts of water and provide water for many months during dry seasons. It is important to realize that deep, fine-textured soils can become shallow and coarse textured due to poor land use management, because the light clays and organic materials are more easily lost by water and wind erosion than the coarse materials. The condition of the water cycle can be measured, determining infiltration rate and measuring the organic matter and clay content in the soil. And we can also measure the water retention capacity of the soil in the laboratory. So we can determine the functioning of the water cycle in the soils and compare it to the potential of the land. These are important elements of truly reading the land. One of the most devastating forces on the surface of Earth affecting land conditions is soil erosion caused by human activities. It removes the most fertile part of the soil surface, the home of the energy, water and nutrient reserves, and relocates them in places downstream and downwind, where they can cause serious water and air pollution and bring enormous costs to society. Together with lack of vegetation cover, soil erosion is one of the most visible signs of severe land degradation and poor land condition. Land with severe soil erosion is always considered in very poor condition. In today's world, armed with lessons from the past and all the knowledge we have on ecosystem functions, we should re-evaluate land use in areas with severe soil erosion immediately. Reading the condition of the land is just as important for sustained human culture on Earth as being able to read books to obtain knowledge from previous generations. Land condition affects the livelihood of man. It dictates what actions we can or should take regarding land use and restoration of the land. If we ignore those signs, we risk losing the services provided by the land, and that is really not an option. This, of course, is a magnificent landscape, but the trained eye also discovers that the state of this land is not good. It is lacking vegetation cover, there is no protection against soil erosion, and the soils have become sandy and are not storing the water the plants need to be able to survive dry periods. You should now see that land condition is quite variable, but comparing the condition of the land to its potential, we can determine how much productivity has been lost. This is vital information for land use and restoration decision. The good news is that we can restore degraded land, and that will be the topic of the next video.